This is the inside of the Elddis Majestic 285. If I firstly move to the main control panel, I can turn the 12 volt on firstly by pressing the master button. And then beneath that we then have lights. All of the lights can then be individually turned on and off on their own switches. Next we have water pump on and off. We need the water pump on so we can get water out of the taps, flush the toilet and fill the boiler if it's been drained down. And then we have awning light on and off. All other information is then given via scrolling. The camera doesn't pick up the control panel screen particularly well, so I'll explain what I'm seeing as I go as well. So at the moment it's just displaying the time, and it's also letting us know that we've got mains electricity along the top here. Next we have how much water is in the fresh tank, and then how much water is in the waste tank. We then have the user settings menu, and we get into this by pressing the enter button, and then we can change the contrast, whether or not we have button beeps on and off, how quickly it goes into standby. You can put alarms on for whether the water is low in the fresh tank or high in the waste tank. You can have an alarm on to let you know if you lose mains electricity, and alarms on if either the vehicle or the leisure batteries are low. And then we just exit out of the main menu just here. Battery selection, we can only select the leisure batteries on this particular model. We cannot select the vehicle battery. Condition of the leisure batteries, and then we end up back at the beginning again. To alter the time, just hold the enter button in and it will then begin to flash, and then just use your arrow keys to change the time. If we now just move slightly up, we then have the control panel for the Aldi heating and hot water. To turn the panel on, just press here. And then on initial startup, it will let you know if you have mains electricity connected, and it will give you an internal temperature of the motorhome. If I now press menu, it will bring up its basic controls. So we have heating at the top, just literally plus or minus to pick whatever temperature you would like it inside the motorhome, and it will go right the way up to 30 degrees and drop all the way down to 5 degrees for frost protection. After the thermostat for the heating, we then have a little picture of a shower head, and this is hot water. So currently hot water off, hot water on, and then if I press it again, hot water on a boost. The boost mode is very handy, especially if there's going to be more than one of you having showers in quick succession of each other, or if you just want the hot water very quickly. If you do perform the hot water boost and the heating's running, the heating will turn off for that period because it needs the extra power. So at the moment, even though I've now kind of turned the heating on and the hot water on, the system hasn't actually fired up yet because we now need to give it a power source. So we have a little lightning strike here for mains electricity. So if we're connected to mains, we can run the system on main supply. If I now press the plus, we can run it on 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt or 3 kilowatt. So really just dependent on the amperage of the site you're on, to try and avoid tripping. If we have no main supply connected, we can press the little picture of the flame and run the heating and hot water on gas. If we have both power sources available to us, we can also run in dual fuel, which is very handy, especially in the winter months, to get up to temperature nice and quickly, and it will only consume gas as it's required. Down here in the corner you'll see we have ACC, which is for the workshop, so we cannot access this, but we can access its basic settings on this cog just here. So if I now press this, you'll see we have the settings here. So we have a moon and a sun, so we have night mode and day mode. So if we want to be using this, we can turn it on just here. We can set the temperature that we would like it to be for that night time. We can then set when we would like the night mode to activate, and if it's for all days of the week or just individual, and then when we would like night mode to end. We can also, by highlighting this one here, invert the backlight, so this screen goes to black and the writing goes to white. And we can also, if we highlight this one, tell the boiler that we do not want any hot water produced throughout that period. Very handy if you're wild camping to avoid wasting gas heating hot water whilst you're asleep. Next we have a little picture of a sun, and we have exactly the same again, but just for the daytime. Prioritises what the system prioritises in using when in that dual fuel mode. So at the moment it favours main supply over gas. If you were on an extremely low amp site, you could flip it on its head so it actually consumes more gas and less electricity. Next we just have brightness of the screen, and we can invert the backlight all the time if we wanted to. This one is not available on this particular model. And then we just have time set and set the day of the week just here. If I now arrow down, again most of these can only be accessed by the workshop. This one can be accessed, which I will show you in a moment. If we continue to arrow down, we have this one here which is called antimicrobial. It can only work if you are using that night mode. So night mode needs to be active, and this needs to be highlighted in green. And then what will happen is in the middle of the night, the boiler will come on, rapidly heat itself up to kill off any bacteria that might be in the system. We then just have temperature offset for the internal thermostat. So if you don't think it's quite correct, you can just slightly alter it. High altitude mode just here, so if you are using the motorhome 1,000 meters or above sea level, just activate this to help the system run efficiently at a different air pressure. Key beeps on and off. Then we have just one delayed start and stop to the system. Pump settings for the heating, just literally leave it set to thermal. You don't want it on continuous, so otherwise the fluid will just constantly run around the radiators for no reason at all. If I now arrow down again, we have factory reset here, so if the control panel is being a problem, you can just reset it. External start, you do have to have additional SIM boxes etc. added if you want to be able to control this via an app. Language, service, more for the workshop, but if you go into this you can see temperature of the heating, temperature of hot water etc. just there. We then have installed accessories, and if I now go into this one here which is called load monitor is very handy. If I now tick it and I now arrow back up again, you'll see we can now access this. And if I press it just here, if we know how many amps the site is that we're on, we can literally pick it on here. So let's just say we're on a relatively low 10 amp site. We can activate it here. Now if I pop it onto 3 kilowatts, it doesn't matter because it's now load monitoring itself, so it wouldn't actually pull 3 kilowatts. This will help to avoid tripping. Because it's now an activated function, if I just press here, you'll see we can go straight back to it, and we can then either alter it or turn it completely back off again. If I now come to the bed just here, and we just lift up. So tucked down in the corner just here we have the drain for the Elddis boiler. So to drain all the water out of it for winterization, all we need to do is firstly make sure that the water pump is turned off, and then come to this yellow lever just here and flap it up, and then it will begin to drop all the water out of the boiler. I always suggest that if you are fully winterizing the motorhome, that you then also open up all of the taps as well, because this will help in releasing any airlocks in the system and help it drain down much more efficiently. When it comes to refilling the boiler, make sure the taps are closed again. Close the drain tap, fill up the fresh water tank, turn on the 12 volt, and then turn the water pump back on again. And then the water pump just here will then begin filling the boiler back up again. After a few minutes, begin opening the taps. They will then cough and splutter as they force the air out. Once they're then running freely on both hot and cold, reclose, and then the system will fully reprime itself. Also, just tucked down just at this point here is the gas isolation tap for the boiler. It is in the on position, and quite frankly it can stay like that, like all of the gas isolation taps in the motorhome. I always say they are more for maintenance. If you do smell gas in the motorhome, go to the source and just turn off the gas bottle. Also, underneath here we have the consumer unit. So you will see the main strip switches along the top here. So we have the individual MCBs, then we have the main RCD and test button just here. So if anything's not working on main supply, just check to see if you have tripped. And then along the bottom here we have the 12 volt fuses, and again they're all labelled up. So again, if anything's not working on 12 volt, just check to see if you've blown a fuse. Tucked down here is the isolator switch for the fresh and waste tank heaters. At the moment it's completely off. If I now flick the tank heaters on, they haven't actually come on yet, because firstly there needs to be water in the tanks themselves, and the external temperature needs to be below about 3 or 4 degrees. Microwave just here. As it states here, do make sure that all contents are removed for travel. This will work when the motorhome is connected to mains electricity. To use it, just press the eco button and that will then turn it on. And then we have the usual quick start and stop just here, auto cook at the top, defrost, power settings, etc. Beneath that we have the hob. So we've got the electric hot plate that, like the microwave, will work when the van is connected to main supply, and it operates just here, and the red light comes on to let you know it's in operation. For the gas rings, just push in, twist and push the igniter. When you firstly put a gas bottle on, there will be a bit of air in the system, so you will just need, as I've just done so, to just force it out. Beneath the hob we have the grill, and again just push in, twist and push the igniter. then the oven. There is also an inspection light for the oven as well. Beneath the oven you will find a plug which is just for the electric hot plate, and again then 2 gas isolation taps, one for the cooker and the other for the fridge. With the fridge, to turn the unit on, just press here. If we want to run the fridge on main supply, just press the little picture of the 2-pin plug. If you do not have main supply connected, you can run the fridge on gas by pressing the flame. The fridge will automatically ignite itself. If it fails to light, it will begin to beep at you and you'll get a red flashing indicator just here. If you think it may just be down to the fact there might be a bit of air in the system, just press the button again and it will then re-attempt to light itself. And then lastly we have 12 volt maintain. This will only work when the engine is running. This is the one we have it on to keep the fridge cold whilst on the move. So if I press this at the moment, we're going to beep and get the error because the engine's not running. Temperature control just here, and then just push down to open the door. Then we have the removable freezer box at the top. Light switches at the top here. This last one is not a light switch, it turns the fan on just down here. So if you have your heating on, you can pop that fan on and it will draw some of the heat off the radiators and push it into the cab area. Freestanding table just here. And then above my head we have the Omnivent fan. So to raise the roof vent, just wind. Middle button turns the unit on, and then we have arrows out for cooling and arrows out for extraction, and it's variable fan speed just by pressing. Do make sure that all roof vents are closed for travel. PIR sensor for the alarm just here. Just press the button once in a while just to check that it's operating, because it is wireless and it does require batteries. And then we also have the carbon monoxide alarm and smoke alarm just here. Again, just press them to check that they're operating, because again they do require batteries. In the overhead locker just here we have the solar panel regulator just here. We do not need to do anything with this, it will just smart charge the leisure batteries as it's required. And then we also have the television aerial in here. So we have the digital amplifier for it just here, on and off just here, and then control the boost just here. Do make sure this is on, or otherwise you will not be able to tune a television in. To raise the television aerial, just unscrew the collar just here and then push up and then twist the mast into the position you require and then lock it into place. Try to avoid over tightening these collars because you do run the risk of splitting them otherwise. At the moment the aerial is sitting in the horizontal position. We can flip it to a vertical by turning the tail here if we need to do any more additional tuning. Do make sure that the aerial is down for travel. And then the television just plugs in just here, so we have the aerial fly lead in just here. If we're running a 12 volt telly, we can plug it in just here, or otherwise we can run it off mains just here. And then we have 2 USB charge points. If we now just go underneath this bed here, we have storage, but we also have the location of one of the leisure batteries underneath here. So we have one leisure battery just here, and then if I then move back to the front of the motorhome, and we just remove the carpet and then lift up just here, we then have the second leisure battery just here. Washroom at the rear. So we have the shower cubicle just here. Do make sure that the shower screen is fully secured for travel. We then have the basin, and then the Thetford toilet just here. So to open to the cassette, just slide the grey lever across just here, and then just push to flush on the blue button, and then close back up to the cassette again. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you do feel resistance, just make sure that nobody's left it open. Level indicator for the cassette just here, so it will illuminate when the cassette needs emptying. And then in the wardrobe, we have the header tank for the Aldi heating. Just make sure that the fluid level is between the minimum and the maximum. Always take your reading once the heating is up to temperature, as it will expand in the tank. You can top this up yourself if required, but do make sure that you are using the correct Aldi top-up solution. And basically just down here is a cap, just unscrew it to top it up. Underneath both bench seats are the fold out travel seats. And then to make the front bed, all we need to do is just slightly lift up and then pull across. Then, as you can see, it's just a matter of pulling the seat cushion slightly forward and then dropping the backs in behind. On this side here, you will find that you have a slight gap because we're on a wider Alco chassis van. So all we need to do is just take this infill and then just drop it in the gap. My apologies, it goes in on the shorter side, just here. The seats rotate round on the levers just here, and then they're also height adjustable on the side levers just here.